They're dead, Dave.
What, Captain Hollister?
Everybody's dead, Dave.
What, Todd Hunter? What, Selby? Not Jen.
He's dead, Dave. Everybody is dead. Everybody is dead, Dave.
Hello there, Smegheads, and welcome back to Everybody's Dead Dave, the Red Dwarf review podcast, hosted by myself, and as always, my co-host, Phil Hawkins. How are we doing today, Phil?
Doing good, apart from a little bit of a cold, so I apologise if I sound a bit nasally during this podcast.
Right. We're getting into the autumn season now as we're recording this, so temperatures are finally starting to cool down a little bit, so it's only to be expected. If you're new, welcome. The premise is me and Phil go through every episode of Red Dwarf from the end to, oddly enough today, the beginning.
The beginning.
The one time we can really mean it when we say it.
I've been saying that for so long because I knew this episode was coming and I knew the first episode was the end and then there was this from the end to the beginning. But now we're going beyond the beginning.
After a year and a half, you can finally say it. You got it out there. But if you are new, I'm a relative newbie. This is my first time watching Red Dwarf as a whole. So every episode is my first experience with it. For Phil, he's a, seasoned newbie. Is that what we said? Or
seasoned newbie, veteran. Everyone's always a newbie.
Just
to keep it egalitarian.
Absolutely. But Phil has seen these episodes before, so we just get our contrasting opinions. And as you might have guessed, we've reached the finale of Series 10, the beginning, which, if you're an Eagle fan, which I'm sure you all are, it mimics the first ever episode. So I wondered, Phil, before we get into this, knowing this was the title, I wondered if at this point they may have thought this would have been potentially the last Red Dwarf, because I think between this and Series 11, there's a 4-year gap, I think. Series 11 was 2016.
I can't remember the exact years, but
wrong.
It sounds about right. I know there was a bit of a gap, and I think they didn't know whether or not they would be coming back again after this. So it does feel like they're trying to mirror the beginning so that if this was the last one, that there would be a nice bookend to it. Yeah.
But does it quite live up to the title? Well, let's delve right in and find out, shall we? So we start with a little caption. We're on now. Is it? This is always. Is it IO or is it pronounced differently phonetically?
I pronounce it IO, but
I do as well.
I might be wrong.
I think I got told in school once, because that's what when you're learning about space. That's how it's spelled. It's just IO. One of Jupiter's moons, by the way. But I swear a teacher pronounced it like just as pure phonetics. But anyway, we're on one of Jupiter's moons, and we see, if you're a keen observer, this is, of course, where Rimmer grew up on Io, on one of Jupiter's moons. And as such, we see a young Arnold Rimmer heading to his first class, but he's running a bit late. And, I mean, what did you think to the actor they chose, like his look and his mannerisms? Do you think he accurately portray what you thought a young Arnold Rimmer would be like?
Yeah, he was kind of that sort of slightly awkward, bumbling, nerdy kind of vibe about him. It seemed to work quite well for a young.
It gave me mad.
Arnold.
It was Mad Will from the Inbetweeners energy.
Yes,
yeah, very
just
much.
Be carrying a briefcase. Yeah,
yes, which was on around the same time. So coincidence, maybe, who knows? And I wrote the future looks a lot like, because I say the future, even though this is Red Dwarf. Even before the big accident in the very first episode, it's still implied that Red Dwarf takes place in our future, doesn't it? Like, it's not. Yeah. And I wrote, the future looks very much like the 21st century, doesn't it?
Yes. How far in the future varies depending on which episode you're watching, I think, or which book you're reading. But it is our future that they come from, where they are mining Jupiter and things.
Yeah. As we've said before several times on this podcast, when it comes to dates, dear listener, try not to think too much about it. It's probably for the best. But Rimmer is obviously getting scolded by his teacher, who we find out is his father. And is this the first time we've seen Rimmer's father? I couldn't remember.
No, it is not.
I didn't think so.
We did see him in one of the early episodes. I can't remember. When was it? It was... I'm trying to remember.
Was it the... go on. Yeah.
It was where, because he appeared as a kind of vision. Oh, was it? It was Better Than Life, wasn't it? He came and chastised him in the restaurant.
Yes.
That was it.
Yes. There you go. And I don't think this is played by the same actor.
No, different actor. So I've just looked it up. So yes, it was Better Than Life. It was originally in Better Than Life. He was played by John Abineri, I think that's how you pronounced. Here it's Simon Treves.
Oh.
But I do think that they cast someone and, dressed him up and styled him to the point where it did look like I wouldn't have necessarily known that it was the same person just by he had a very similar look to him. They hadn't completely reimagined him. He had the mustache, he had the same kind of haircuts, he had the same sort of clothing, I think, as he had previously. So they did a good job of casting there, I think.
Yeah, so they sort of stuck to the continuity then in a roundabout way, by the sounds of it. Yeah. Oh, good. But after a bit of scolding, we get to some questions. Some very bizarre questions. He holds up a piece of card, which to me, and bear in mind I am partially sighted, so part of me thought this was a cruel joke at my expense. He says, "What colour is this? Is it purple? Is it blue? Is it green?" And to my eyes, Phil, it looked blue.
To my eyes, it looked purple, and I think those are the two acceptable answers. It's kind of bluey purple kind of colour.
Yeah.
So, you have a couple of people that in the class, they've all been told what to say because this is an experiment at Rimmer's expense.
Oh, yes.
And so I think the purple or either purple or blue would have been a fine answer. So everyone sticks their hand up on green.
They
apart
do.
from Rimmer.
Yes, and they do the same thing with is the fallopian tube an instrument? Which is quite a question I never thought I'd hear in my life. But as you say, this is all at Rimmer's expense. And then we cut back to, after all this, Red Dwarf. And at this point, I thought, right, is this going to be one of those episodes where we're flitting backwards between, young Rimmer and present-day Rimmer? And we'll touch more on that in just a moment. But we are back on Red Dwarf. And there's a security breach. There's some kind of creature that's invaded G-Deck, and it seemingly moves through the wall as effortlessly as Rimmer did last episode, which we debated if that was something he could do constantly, but you'll have to listen to last episode for that one. And it finds Cat first. Cat's, of course, having his beauty sleep, cucumbers over the eyes, all that stuff, and threatens him, saying, "You killed my brother." I'm not even going to attempt the accent. What accent was this?
I think it's a kind of sort of maybe Mexican type accent. It's a kind of Latin American type accent, I think. It kind of felt like it was being the stereotype from those like Western movies of the guy coming at, the Mexicans maybe coming over the border and being in those Wild West towns, or that kind of vibe to it.
The sort of which make
Tash as well.
Oh yes, of course, which makes sense a little bit later on in terms of his motives. But Cat doesn't seem too fazed by him. He just says, "No, you want Lister," so directs him to him. He comes across Crichton, threatens Crichton, same sort of thing, very nonchalantly, is like the floor below, all that sort of stuff. And then when he reaches Lister, funnily enough, Lister doesn't seem too bothered either. He's not really fazed by this. He's sort of like, nah, forget it. And then it's revealed that this guy's sort of a recurring visitor of sorts, isn't he, Phil?
Yeah, and I like this. I like it when they imply there are off-screen adventures that we haven't seen. And you get that here. It seems like he just follows them around and tries to challenge them to duels throughout space and time all the time. Is he a simulant as well? I think because
there was one line, and I can't remember if I misheard it, when Lister wakes up, and I thought I heard him say some sort of like robot or android or something
rogue,
like that.
I think he said.
Was it just rogue?
But there have been rogue simulants before, so I don't know. And I think the ones later get referred to as like rogue simulant death ship or something like that. So I don't know. And he very much looks like simulants from, I can't remember which episode or which series it was.
Was it their debut where they looked like him? Or sort of looked like him.
Well, I think their debut was that the Gunmen of the Apocalypse was their debut, or had they been on there before that? But there's the one where they go and trade with one for Crichton, for a replacement part for Crichton, and he ends up keeping Crichton, and he had a very similar look to this guy, and I wondered if that was his brother, and he's referring to that, or if his brother is just another off-screen thing that happened.
It very well could be. I mean, again, Eagle listeners who are attentive, you can let us know in the comments on YouTube which episodes we're referring to. But
according to the IMDb trivia section, the character of Hoagie the Rogie is called, as they refer to him as, which I love the rhyming there.
Yeah.
He was originally, apparently, meant to feature as a character in the Red Dwarf feature film that was planned in 2000 but never materialized. So maybe that feature film, the events of that feature film happened, but we just never saw them.
Maybe unwritten script, perhaps. Well, maybe that'll get revealed one day. But as Hoagie starts to act less like a threatening villain and more like a whiny child when he doesn't get his way, Red Dwarf is under attack. It's hit by missiles breaching the hull, and
can I say about the whining? I love the whining. They kind of like, oh, I really want, because he challenges him to a duel across time and space. Challenges Lister, and Lister's just like, no, I keep telling you, I don't want a duel. Just leave us alone. And he's like, oh, please. And it's just, I love the white. Just great moments there. I love that.
Do you accept the challenge, Homo? A duel across time and space?
No.
Why?
Okay, you are always doing this, picking fights, and then challenging us to duels across time and space.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you Smeggin are. You rogue droids are obsessed with duels across time and space.
You insult my kind, saying we are obsessed with duels across time and space, and therefore challenge you to a duel across time and space.
I suppose it's like how, like some children, isn't it? I mean, you might be able to relate. I don't know.
Very
like,
much is.
Can I do this? Like, no,
Please.
I told you. It's like, yeah, please, yeah. And we've all done it as well. Come on, we can all admit to ourselves as kids we probably did that at least once for some reason. But when the hull's cracked and everything's being sucked out, and then Crichton comes in, what did you think of this whole, the whole gag of Crichton say, "Oh, I'm sorry for interrupting. Is this a good time to clean the room?" and all that's, is this a good time to learn about human vocal tones or whatever he says? Because to me, the whole thing with Crichton shouting before the hull is fixed just felt, I don't know, it just felt a bit forced, a bit strained, I guess.
Yeah, maybe. It was...
I don't know. It just didn't feel like it flowed properly.
It was okay, I think. It didn't, massively grate on me. But, yeah, I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah. But I mean, once they do get the hull fixed, which of course poor Hoagie is sucked into the hole and basically plugs it, leaving him stuck there.
It is a small hole.
It is a rather small hole, but when
it wasn't
you're in
big
space,
enough to suck him out of the ship.
No, I think that's a case of what's that old term? Plot convenience. So,
yeah,
and
it's
they
somewhere
take
to stick Hoagie for the rest of the episode.
That's it. Well, yeah, that is exactly it. If you thought you were seeing Hoagie throughout, nah, this is it, I'm afraid. They take his demoleculizer gun, or whatever they call it. There's it, demoleculizer, something like that. Or destabilizer. They take his weapon and leave him there. And then we get...
destabilizer.
That's the one. That's the one. We get a shot of the simulant ships. And I've got to say, just throughout this episode, any shots we get of Red Dwarf or the simulant ship, I think it all looks great considering the era and budget and stuff like that. I think they really, you could tell if there was a ship budget or a model budget or a CGI budget. I think a lot of it went into this, and I'm glad it did because it looks. What do you think? Do you think it looks as good as well?
Yeah. The ships look great, and there was a few different designs. It wasn't just one ship either. There was a couple, the big ship, and then a few little scout type smaller ships.
Yeah,
and the CGI looked good on them, and pretty.
Yeah, it's a good variety. Nice variety. They head back to the control room, but everything's down because, of course, they are being attacked.
I do like Crichton's line here.
You read my mind. Yes, yeah.
No, sorry, I stole that. You go.
No, it's fine. So they can't use the scanners or the screens. Crichton says,
I have a suggestion, sirs. What? How about we look out of the window?
Which is one of those lines, it's such a mundane line, but I think Robert Llewellyn's delivery and how the stakes are, it's brilliant. It reminded me a lot of the bulb change gag.
Yeah.
The famous bulb. I don't know, it had that same sort of quality to it. I really liked it. Yeah, and they establish quickly that it is a rogue simulant death ship that's attacking. And then we cut to aboard the death ship itself, which I'm glad, because I was worried that, because they've done this sometimes in Red Dwarf's past, they'll reference other species, or, you'll get a shot of one of their ships, but then you don't actually go, you're not aboard it, you're not seeing them.
And these
Thankfully,
simulants are different to the one, like, if the one on the ship is a simulant, they're kind of like different groups. These ones are much more together. The one that was like on the ship, in fact, they're chasing him because he's stolen stuff from them.
Yes,
and he's like kind of disheveled and kind of like he's clearly been augmented with stuff, but he's not.
I guess what they maybe a quote unquote pure simulant, maybe, or whatever they consider to be pure.
Yeah, and they're much more together, and like I said, you see the inside of their ship, and very ceremonial. Candles and robes and
very culty.
Things. Yeah, it is a bit like indeed, like a cult, and swords.
Yeah. Oh well, this guy. Yeah. So the I guess subordinate goes to, as he calls him, he calls him Dominator. That's his title, and reveals that they are in pursuit, but they haven't managed to take out as they say, the human, and. The leader, the Dominator, slides a sword towards him with the blade pointing directly at him, and the lieutenant, or whoever, implies that he is asked to basically take himself out for his failure.
Because the Dominator leader guy says something along the lines of, "You know what you have to do," and then slides the sword to him.
Yes, to which he impales himself, and then it's revealed he says, "Oh, you must polish my sword."
Yes, and write me an apology letter.
Yes, oh, of course, very important. But the act of that's actually based on real life, isn't it? I believe, and again, any historians, if my brother's listening, he'll kill me for this. But I'm certain that in Japanese military, I can't remember what it's called, but the act of impaling
they use
yourself.
The word as well. It's begins with H, but I can't remember exactly what it was. But they used it in the script. That is a real thing.
Yeah, because I believe honor plays a big part in the Japanese military, and the feeling of not being honorable, or I don't know, failing, or rather than surrender in some cases, that is the option they go with. So yeah, I know, but I like it was an adaptation of like something from real life. I just found it quite interesting actually. But yeah, we get this nice gag of him saying that wasn't made quite clear, so I think we need to change the procedures, whilst he's also holding parts of his innards.
Yeah, trying to scoop them back in. And I think at one point he goes, "Oh, that looks important."
Yes. But I mean, we don't know how simulant anatomy works. Some would assume he's dead. Not this guy. Did you feel the whole sword gag went on for too long?
No, I didn't.
No?
I liked it.
I felt just a tiny bit towards the end, but nothing criminal. Certainly not the worst. So whilst that's going on, the boys of the dwarf are figuring out what to do. They're under attack. They need to formulate a plan. They have their demoleculizer. They have the gun from Hoagie, and they realize that it can destabilize molecules, so things can essentially pass through. Where Lister falls through the floor, brings the others with him in what was a very awkward green screen moment, I have to say. You know how they fell through the floor and landed? I thought, ooh, okay.
I kind of like Kat's description of it, though.
Oh, yes.
And what does he say? He says something like...
a wibbly gun.
A wibbly gun, because it makes everything go wibbly.
Yes. And then I think Crichton gives the technical term, to which Rimmer says, I prefer his version instead, which is true. But they can't stay on Red Dwarf. It's literally being bombarded on all fronts, so they decide they're going to get to Blue Midget and fly away. So are we assuming Starbug's just gone then? Because I know in the last episode, or one of the last, the Gelth had it, or what was it? The Begs.
I think they had two, because he said, "Oh, we'll go in Starbug 2 to get it." Yeah. And then they went in Blue Midget, so I don't know what that was about. But clearly they don't have a set for Starbug at the moment, because they are just using Blue Midget. I don't think we've seen Starbug at all this series.
No, apart from that lovely model shot in that past, of like the campfire when they land to try, and they negotiate with the Begs.
Did we see?
It's in like the shot, whether it's model or matte painting, whatever it is. Like when they go to land, you see a few tents. And was that Blue Midget?
I'm sure that was
Starbug.
Blue Midget. I could have sworn that was Blue Midget.
We'll have to go back on ourselves on that one. But yeah, you're right. We've seen a lot more of Blue Midget this series than we have Starbug, which, fair enough. Starbug's had the limelight for several series now, so why not? But they do flee in Blue Midget, and but the simulants are in tow. And Rimmer has taken this odd device, which is was it a hollow projector?
Yeah, at first I thought it was a telescope or something.
It looked like a periscope or something like that.
Well, it looked like one of those desktop, scientific, not telescope, microscope. That's the word, not telescope.
I said periscope. That was wrong.
Yeah, it looked like a microscope. So I was wondering if it was some kind of device that they were going to use at some point for some, technical reason. But no, it was a hologram emitter.
Yes, a hologram emitter that will become important a little bit later on. But they decide to hide in an asteroid field. Very, very Empire Strikes Back, of course, hiding amongst the asteroids. And but the simulant dominator, he's not happy about this. He's very annoyed that they haven't been able to take them out yet. And what does he say at first? He encourages his subordinates to debate him and to challenge him.
Yeah.
To which someone says, "Oh well, what's the point?" Because last time, to which he's interrupted by the dominator saying, "Kill him."
Yeah.
He says, "Oh, you see what I mean?" I like that. It was a funny little side gag.
But I think it rings. I mean, it was obviously done in a very comic way, but I think it rings quite true. I think a lot of powerful people pretend they want to have open discussions, but really they want everybody to agree. They pretend they don't want everybody to agree with them, but they really do.
It's that classic. What's the line of you can say anything you like, except. Then it begins the long list. Yeah, but no, you're right. Very, very telling. And then we get this scene in the Blue Midget control room. And this scene and I'm not saying this is a bad thing. This is quite a long scene as it goes. There's a lot of banter between the four of them. What did you think of this whole segment then, where they're just chatting?
Well, first of all, we get a reference back to the Series 8 finale, which I really liked.
The microorganisms.
The microorganisms, because they go we've gotten out of tighter situations by this before. Like that time when we, microorganisms were eating Red Dwarf. And then Rimmer takes credit. He's like, yes, I saved us from that. And then, and he's about to reveal how, which of course we never saw because there was a cliffhanger. And then it gets cut off. So we never find out what happened. And this raises the question again of which Rimmer is this?
Yes.
Because that kind of implies that initially you might think that implies that, he's the Rimmer that was in Series 8 then, because he was involved in that adventure and he saved them, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So it must be that one, and he must have died again. But earlier on in the episode, he has already referenced having died before, because he's obviously dead as a hologram, having died from the nuclear explosion, which happened obviously at the first episode. So, but this the remade via nanobots Rimmer that we had in Series 8 never died via that way. So
that's right.
He therefore must be the original Rimmer. So the only way I can kind of level those two things in my head is that the original Rimmer must have come back during those events and saved them somehow. So he went off to be Ace Rimmer. Maybe he came back, decided that he couldn't be Ace Rimmer, probably turned up and saved them from the events. What happened to human Ace Rimmer? Not dead Ace Rimmer. Who knows?
Yes. There you go, folks. That's your whole. Your whole Rimmer theory. So do what you will.
But it does. It raised those issues, and I felt we needed to tackle them. What do you think?
Absolutely,
Adam.
Well, it's as you say. I like the fact that even though obviously we'd love an explanation, what sci-fi fan doesn't want an explanation for absolutely everything? So I do like the fact they're very tongue in cheek, and they, as you say, they cut it off just as. The whole Rimmer thing, sometimes I struggle to remember which one's which, but I don't know. I'd like to think this is that same Rimmer from Series 8, because like I say, if he's referencing it, then he must have lived it, or it's implied that he lived it.
Yeah, but he also references dying from the nuclear.
I know. This is where I wonder if the creators would do it just so
Just to
fans
mess
do
with
this
our
exactly.
minds,
Yeah.
probably.
Who knows? Let us know. Hey, if you've got a different theory though, then feel free to let us know in the comments so we can wax lyrical about it. Hey, maybe that's a potential for a future special. Red Dwarf fan theories.
Yeah.
You never know. So Rimmer, they have to have a plan, basically. Otherwise, they're buggered. They're going to get killed by the simulants. And Lister decides to delegate one of the tasks to Rimmer, who is a bit stunned at first. And, he's been actually given an important task. And his faux confidence I find rather amusing when he's like, right, yes, okay, I can do this. Yeah.
He seems surprised that Lister would have the confidence in him to delegate him the duty of coming up with the battle plan.
Exactly.
But really, I mean, it's just because they have no other options. The rest of them are even more as useless as Rimmer is. They're all that useless.
But it seems like Rimmer's the last resort, as when they send him off, they all proclaim that they're smegged because they haven't got a hope. Rimmer draws up his battle plan, all lovely and color-coded.
Oh, it's not his battle plan, it's his battle plan timetable.
Sorry, yes, that's right, battle plan timetable.
Exactly what he used to do because he references, this will be like an exam, and then he does a timetable like he used to do with his exams. Because, of course, he used to spend most of his revision time just making a revision timetable and not actually revising. And he appears to be taking the same tack here with coming up with battle plan. Planning the planning rather than actually doing the planning.
Yes, and he still has no idea what he's going to do. And eventually Crichton pays him a visit, drops off 2 forks and a pencil sharpener, as well as the
only weapons they could find on the ship.
Absolutely. As well as the demoleculizer as well, of course, which he leaves it. But yes, 2 forks and a pencil sharpener. But then Cat comes in, and Phil, I really loved this scene.
I did too, yeah.
Because at first, obviously, he's playing with string. Again, nice catism. And, doing, I love the string game. But then out of nowhere, Cat gets very philosophical with Rimmer and starts talking about his dad, saying, like, he needs to break away from him, that his dad is the source of, like, the fear and doubt in him that prevents him from doing anything like this, like planning a battle and stuff. And the way he, like, talk, it's almost like a preacher, in a way. He's like saying, this is what you got to do. You got to break free. You got to do it. And I love it because how long have we said that Cat, even in the better episodes when he's like displaying more catisms or he's more than just a punchline, how long have we said, we'd love for Cat to get like a moment where he actually contributes like I don't know, like a pretty consequential thing to the episode.
Yeah. And I think this series, I've said this in pretty much every episode, this series has done Cat a great service, I think, because he's been used really well throughout it. But I think this is for comedy and all sorts of things, but just giving him screen time and giving him things to do. But this is probably the most impactful thing he's done, maybe in the whole series.
I'd think so, absolutely. Like
he's actually had an impact, a positive impact on something, not a negative one.
Absolutely. I mean, when he started talking to Rimmer about it, like his dad, I was shocked because that's the last thing I'd expect from Cat. Like, it's just, and this scene, it could have easily been Lister, couldn't it? That could have easily been Lister coming in, and because we've had moments like that before where the two of them share like a, not emotion, but they can have a deep conversation. So yeah, I loved it. I was like, finally, Cat has, even though it was brief, like he had that moment to really. And Danny John Jules just smashed it as well. Like he balanced the comedy of the string. 'Cause he never drops the string throughout, of course. He's always focused on that string. But I don't know. I feel like he got the seriousness of it as well, or the sincerity of it. They even give a little explanation that Cat sense things, which that works. So yeah, and it actually has an impact because Rimmer then decides he hasn't got a plan. He admits he still hasn't got a plan, but he's going to play his father's message, which his father had told him he should only play when he becomes an officer of the Space Corps, which of course Rimmer isn't. But I like his reasoning that if he plays it before the moment his father wanted him to, then that's it. He thinks he'll break free of him. And what I like is that line, I don't know what you thought, that line's not played for laughs. There's no laugh track. Chris Barry feels very sincere. And like I've said before, I know Red Dwarf's a comedy, the jokes are the forefront as it should be. But I like it, even when it's brief, then they take those moments just to deliver a line with, sincerity to it. Well, did you like it as well, his sort of reasoning for it?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, it kind of like harkens back to those Series 1, Series 2 moments where you had in the observation sort of dome at the top of the ship, but there's quieter moments that they're not really playing for the comedy. They're playing for the actually, this is a nice character moment. And it really is for Rimmer. It's a nice moment for him.
Yeah, really good stuff. So the message begins to play, and the message from his father, basically, we're going, if I mentioned Empire Strikes Back before, we're going full Star Wars now.
Or reverse Star Wars.
Yes, kind of, because he reveals to Rimmer that he is actually not his father. To which we get the immediate lines afterwards they're almost one for one with Empire Strikes Back. They change them just enough. I think Rimmer says something like, no, that can't be true, instead of that's impossible. And what does his father say? Like, search deep, doesn't say search your feelings, you know it to be true, but he says something like, if you look inside yourself, you'll know that this is true. Very on the nose. But then, as you say, we get another reverse. This isn't actually his father at all.
Yeah. And instead, his father is Dungo the gardener.
Dungo? Yes, who we haven't seen before,
no.
I think, in Red Dwarf. This is yes, so it's Dungo the gardener. And you'd think maybe this would be quite damning for Rimmer, but again, it actually does quite the opposite for him. It seems that he feels that weight's been lifted. He's no longer living in what he thought was his father's shadow, and he feels like a renewed confidence. He's got a plan that his real father Dungo or Dennis or Dad, as he says, would be proud of. But it's still awful. Apparently, it's still an awful
He goes
plan.
and tells everybody it, and they vote against it. And and I like this because it mirrors what the experiment his dad was doing in one of the thing, where basically he was trying to see if he would raise his hand on the wrong answer that he knew was the wrong answer because everyone else was.
Yes,
and we get a similar thing here where everybody votes against the plan, and so he ends up like starting to raise his hand to vote against his own plan because everybody else is, and he's succumbing to that peer pressure again from that. It very mirrors that opening scene, and I like the kind of symmetry there. But then he conquers it, and he hears his dad's voice in his head. Or he's not dad. His whatever, not biological dad in his head.
Yes,
the person he thought is his father, and he's like crunches up his fist, and he's like, "No, this will work." And he gets that renewed confidence. We don't at this point know what the plan is either. We've kind of cut to them already ready to vote for it or against it, but not knowing what it is. So we will see what it is in a minute.
Yeah, and the others rally behind him, and they head off. Like Lister says, take the forks, we might need them. Just as because you can't forget the forks, key weapon. So they're cornered by the huge simulant ships, one on either side. Rimmer offers to surrender, and Clay proclaims that you can't shoot down a surrendering ship, as that because doing so. I love this line. Is some I wrote scandalous treason of the niceties of battle.
Nice, that's a good line.
Which is but it's true, then from what we know of war in our history, like supposedly if you wave the white flag of surrender, you're formally not meant to shoot them, which seems. Again, like a nicety, which seems barbaric in a war zone, but there we are. And the simulants sort of taunt him, saying, "Oh, you live and then you die." To which Rimmer at first says he's going to write a very strongly worded letter to Geneva about this. To which he does. But then we get the plan, don't we, Phil?
Yes, this was all to lure them into a position where they're going to fire, and they were at like 4 different positions surrounding them, and all fire at once. Heading towards the ship, but of course, what do they still have? They have Chekhov's gun. Chekhov's dematerialization gun. For anybody who don't, why I'm calling it Chekhov's, that's a sort of theater trope that if you see or a story trope, if you see a gun at the beginning of a play, it will be fired at some point during the play. Otherwise, why is it there at the beginning? So that's this. We saw the gun earlier. It is now coming into play.
It absolutely
is. Demolecularized, whatever they're doing. They're making it so that the missiles will pass through the bulkheads, over their heads, out the other side, and of course head towards the opposing ships. that were opposite each other.
I don't know how demolecularizing the bulkheads doesn't. How does that work with like space and the vacuum of space? If it's not a solid, who knows? Apparently, does nothing. But the plan works. The missiles pass through.
This is very similar. I have just realized to basically the Doctor's plan in Day of the Doctor, where he basically moves Gallifrey so all the Daleks fire on each other.
So, hey, Stephen Moffat, if you listen, is that where you got it from? Because that was a year before Day of the Doctor. So yeah, funny that. I wonder. But the simulants are destroyed, and yeah, we sort of. Rimmer's still got that sort of renewed confidence that his plan worked, and he says, back to Red Dwarf, the slime is coming home.
That's what they end on. I like the fact that before that, though, he refers to himself, now his lineage is not emperors or whatever.
Oh, yes,
It's gardeners and other stuff. He's like refers to himself as a working class hero. He's always been quite snobby. And, he's like, oh, I'm a working class hero. And I think Lister says you and me both. But then they end on that line, Slime's coming home, after referring to himself now as a working class hero, which of course mirrors the end of the end, the first episode, which is the exact same line that they used when they were first heading back to Earth.
It is, which makes it, as we said at the very top, like, had this been the last episode, line-wise, that would have been a fitting conclusion, I suppose. And that, folks, wraps up the beginning. Before we do our regular segments, I'll just say, Phil, this wasn't the finale I thought it was going to be. I think there were a few things, not that I was expecting, that I thought might happen. This is the only episode of Series 10 where there's no Kachansky reference.
I was going to say no Kachansky. I know you've been wondering. We've had a Kachansky reference every single episode up until this one. So you kind of were wondering, that building to something. Finale. Are we going to see Kachansky in the finale?
Yes.
No, we're not.
No, we're not.
We're not even going to mention her.
And you know what? That's fine. But I thought at least they'd do one more reference for the sake of it. But no, we literally nothing.
You reference her in 5 out of 6 episodes. Just mention her name at least once, guys.
We literally get nothing. So that was one thing. And I don't know. This I mean, I enjoyed it, but I don't know, it just didn't feel like the finale I thought it might be, but them's the rules, I guess.
I think I said this just before we started recording, but that I think I had this, because it's been 10 years since I've seen this series. I think I had this slightly muddled in my head with a different episode. So it wasn't what I was expecting either, because I thought other events that are happening, which would happen, which are actually going to happen in another episode, which we will get to eventually. So
I see. So there's more to come, clearly. Well, obviously, you'll all know this wasn't, of course, the last episode, because we've still got 2 more series and a special to look at. So, but yeah, that's the beginning. So, Phil, let's do our regular segments. Who was your favourite character in this episode?
There's quite a few to pick from, I think, in this one. There's quite a few different simulants. All of the simulants were funny, I think. So, yeah, the guy that impales himself, the Dominator guy, and the original sort of like tramp type one that comes onto the ship. I'm going to give it to him. I'm going to give it to Hoagie the Rogie, I think. I just really like his like interaction, like, oh, he's whining, is like, oh, I really want to think. Oh, one thing we forgot to, I think I've just realized we forgot to mention, and I have a feeling you didn't know about it, because I didn't until literally 5 minutes before we started recording, and while I was looking on IMDb, realized
go on.
that there's a scene after the credits.
No,
there is, and I only saw it like literally before we started recording. I went back and
I haven't seen it. Please do.
And I've just been reminded, because Hoagie's the feature of it. They go back to the quarters, and they're about to go in, and they're talking in the corridor, and again, the subject of what happened at the end of Series 8 comes up with the organic things, and it feels like we're about to get the answer again, and then the door opens and Hoagie's there with his gun, and then it ends.
How has he got his gun back? Oh, wait, is he not? You mean he's not? Is he off the hull now?
No, he's still... Yeah, he's off the hull, but he's... they've sealed it somehow, I don't know. But he's there.
And he's somehow got his gun back.
Yeah. So that's where it ends. So it's another gag about not finding out what happened at the end of Series 8, basically. But I think,
just to tease that little bit more.
I think that's the first time they've done a post-credit scene.
To our knowledge at least.
Yeah, they've done mid-credit audio things. Before,
yes,
but not a whole scene. I don't. But anyway, that talking about Hoagie reminded me of that. So yeah, he's my favorite character.
There you go, folks. Watch out for post-credit scenes. Absolutely. Oh, wow. Okay. I'll have to go back and watch that for myself because I completely missed it. So were you saying the simulants were your favourite?
Yeah, well, Hoagie specific. I'm going to pick Hoagie specific. Hoagie the Rogie.
Hoagie the Rogie. Maybe he'll come back. Who knows? Or shall I not get my hopes up again?
What about you?
My favourite character this time, I'm going to give it to Kat. Purely, but I mean, he was great throughout, as he normally is, but I was just so happy with that little scene because I felt this is, as we said, this has been a long time coming for Kat, and I'm just glad that finally, even if this is the only one we ever get like this, that it's happened. So, Danny John Jules just smashed it. Rimmer was probably a close second. Obviously, I know it's a very Rimmer-centric episode, and he did really well. The simulants too, but I'm going to give it to Kat for this one. Why not? Cool. And what about your funniest moment?
Again, there were a few I could have picked, but I'm going to go with the polishing the sword.
Oh, right.
Or the guy mistakenly thinking that he meant kill yourself, and actually he just meant polish. And give me a letter of apology.
Yes. It was a good reverse gag.
Yeah.
For me, I already mentioned how much it made me laugh. It's the look out the window gag. Shall we just look out the window? It reminded me so much of the blue bulb, change the bulb gag, which is already probably one of Red Dwarf's most iconic jokes, I think,
definitely,
that gets mentioned. Yeah, felt very much in the same vein, but it didn't feel like a straight retread, and I like that. So, yeah, it's the one that made me laugh the most, so I'm going to give it to that one. And what about your score? How many scutters out of 10 are you giving the beginning?
I'm going to give it... Seven.
Okay.
7. It was an okay episode. I enjoyed, and there was some very funny bits in it. I don't know. It's weird. It just didn't quite feel epic enough, maybe for a finale. And I know that's actually the case with a lot of the Red Dwarf finales, but there was not. It wasn't. I can't really even describe it. It just didn't quite hit enough to go, wow, this is amazing. I'm going to give it like 9 or whatever. Sure. It was a fun, enjoyable episode, and I liked it. And we did get some nice character moments for both Kat and Rimmer, so that was lovely.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of convincing myself to give it a bit more now. Maybe 7.5. I'm going to rate it to 7.5. Yeah. What about yourself?
Fair enough. Mine was your original gut feeling. I'm giving it a 7. Similar reasons to, like you said, there were some strong moments, like some strong funny bits, character moments. But yeah, like you said, it just felt like there was something missing to really make it like that, like an 8 or 9 powerhouse score, you know? And like you say, it doesn't have to be like the most epic episode ever. Do you think in this day and age in TV, we've sort of been dieted to think that every finale of every show ever has to be this grand epic thing.
Maybe.
And they're great, don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I don't mind. I wouldn't have minded if it was just, a serialized adventure. But yeah, it just, felt a bit lacking in some places. Yeah. So, but we'll see if that changes in future seasons to come, because that, folks, means we've wrapped up Series 10 of Red Dwarf, which in terms of the TV stuff, that only leaves us with Series 11, Series 12, and The Promised Land. At the time of recording, who knows? Maybe they'll announce a new Red Dwarf project. It's been 2 and a bit years, so maybe we'll have to see. But in the meantime, Phil, where can they find you on the internet if they want to check out more of what you do?
Well, this podcast and other geeky pop culture stuff of mine goes up on my YouTube channel, which is just Philip Hawkins. It's my name, Philip with 1 L. And there I talk about Doctor Who. This podcast goes up there. Other things like Star Trek, the MCU, things like that. So come and check out my thoughts on those things there. And you can find me on Twitter at Culture Filter. That's Filter spelled P-H-I-L-T-E-R, like Phil, my name.
Yes, very good indeed. And for myself, it's just Adam Martyn on YouTube, Martyn with a Y, for all my content and rambling. Same on Twitter, Adam Martin AMTV. And this podcast has a Twitter, at All Dead Dave Pod. You can give us a follow for updates on the show, amongst other things as well. If you want to cop some Everybody's Dead Dave merchandise, we do t-shirts, we do mugs, we do all sorts of stuff. We have a Teespring store there from which you can order from. And yeah, in the meantime, I say give us your feedback on Phil's channel where this podcast goes. That's our main way, isn't it? Well, and Twitter as well.
Yeah.
Any feedback you have, please let us know. We're not shy to criticism. And also, yeah, your theories, like we said. Any theories you have as well on the Rimmer situation, shall we call it? So that was Series 10. Join us next time for some more Red Dwarf goodness. And until then, we'll see you later.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.